So my name is Elisa Operti. I'm a professor of strategy at ESSEC Business School in Paris. And I did my PhD in Bocconi, and I've always been interested in innovation because I'm an engineer by training. And when I was an engineer, I was studying product architectures and how relationship between components generate innovation. What I realized when being an engineer is that it's not only the relationship between the technical component, but it's the relationship between the people that often make innovation possible. So I wanted to know more how I can engineer relationship between people. Then I discovered social network, and then my advisor was a sociologist, and I became really passionate about that. So the criminal networks projects are a line of research that explores the dark side of social capital, which is one of my interests. And again, it goes back to Italy and to my origins, because relationship between people can be powerful, but at the same time they can impede the development of a nation, as in the case of criminal networks. So one of the problems that maybe one can have is that data availability. And data, the ability to interpret data. But I think this is common in any context, but this specific context makes you more aware, because most of the data we have are about prosecution and are collected with different interests than the one of the researcher. So you have to be very careful in interpreting the data, or also finding occasions where you can get data that were not meant for prosecution, but that speak about the phenomena you are interested in. I think another issue that people say, isn't it dangerous? I don't think it is, in the sense that, for instance, I study Italy, and now it's very accepted, the fact that we study about we talk about criminal networks is very legitimate. There are countries where it is more difficult to talk about informal economy, dark side of the economy, and I may suspect that conducting research in those areas, in those countries, may be more difficult. Yeah, so I started with very conventional settings and business settings, and now I'm more exploring interesting organizational settings. And I think that you have to identify contexts that are ideal cases to study things that can have an important impact on society or on business. So take the horse race example, which is the Palio di Siena, which I don't call a horse race. For me, the Palio di Siena is the culmination of a cultural life of a system that has survived for centuries in Italy. So this, for me, was a perfect case to study a job market for talent, which is the jockey job market, and to see how positive and negative relationships affect this talent market beyond economic motives. So one can expect that talent only moves if you offer them enough money. But then in Siena, this doesn't happen. So why? And what can we learn? And what we learned about the importance of negative ties and the loyalty and the fact that you won't go to the rival, we learned it in a horse race, but then we found similar patterns in other businesses. So for instance, between Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan, we find similar effects. And then we went to professional sports and we find similar loyalty and rivalry effects. And then we went into mobility of academics and scientists, and we found other similar effects. So the idea is any context can inform business or can inform society. You just have to find the perfect case where those dynamics are easier to identify and to generalize, because there are not many other phenomena running at the same time that make it difficult to study. What I'm trying to do more is I try to publish practitioner-oriented paper out of academic articles I publish. And I test these ideas in the classroom, maybe more with the senior audiences, and then I sketch what the practitioner piece would be. And that happened with the piece from the Palio di Siena that then turned into a California management review, which was born out of a conversation I had with a student about the rivalry between Boeing and Airbus. And she was able to tell me dynamics that are very similar to the one that I observe in the case of talent mobility in Siena. So writing practitioner pieces and using them as readings in my cases, and also writing more general divulgative pieces, so pieces of ESSEC knowledge, etc. I also do the reverse. So sometimes I start with the theory and I ask my students to find real-world examples that could be explained by that theory, and sometimes I'm surprised about our students' ability to engage with theory, to be creative, and to use it as a lens to process what is around them. So I think it's also, we shouldn't limit the level of theory and conversation that we have in the classroom, because very often students are willing to take the challenge and bring applications or help us refine our theories if you are able to create some enthusiasm around the topic. Yeah, so I study networks, I study collaboration, and this makes, I should sort of know from research how to do it, but practicing is always more difficult than studying or theorizing. In general, I think it matters a lot, like the alignment of values and the way you live the profession. So, because it's about starting an engagement or a long-term relationship, our publication processes are 2-3 years. So, maybe start dating before really starting a project, like see if you are aligned, because later on you may discover. I think an advice I give to juniors is have a good balance. So diversify your portfolio in a sense that if you only work with your supervisor, then you don't know the diversity out there. You don't maybe learn enough and have a good balance. So maybe start working with seniors, but then work with peers and then work with juniors. I worked a lot with juniors, but it's a lot of energy when I was junior myself. So I think balance, similarity in terms of objectives, complementarity in skills, but also a good portfolio that balances across age, career stages is recommended. I think broadly I'll keep working on these negative sides of social capital, or in general more on the positive outcomes related to negative ties or negative networks. This is where what I would like to do more. So it's like, what if these maybe negatively signed ties have positive consequences, like pushing people to be more innovative? Or at the same time, what if you have positive social capital, but that leads people to cheat or to do wrongdoing? These paradoxes where we always assume that more collaboration is better, and etc. But under what conditions do you have these paradoxes? It's really something that intrigues me. And criminal networks are one example. Rivalry, competition are example of negative ties, or competitive ties are also something that interests me quite a lot. Publishing is, so what we do is we produce good quality research and we address important questions, and publishing is one of the ways in which we make this knowledge accessible to others. So starting with this premise, it's a highly idiosyncratic process where what I learned is that what you control is input. You don't control output. Sometimes I felt I had great quality papers that took long time to publish, and sometimes you have papers that are more narrow, more limited contribution, that go smoothly through the publication pipeline. And I believe that over 10 years or over a long career, maybe these balances, but in the short run it hits you. So focus on what you can control. Control input, control your skills, your passion, ask good questions, etc. And when output comes, don't take it personally. If they reject your paper. But if you do the input right, you learn the skills, you have good question, you have passion, you can still reshuffle, put the paper together and put it back in another journal. But if you focus too much on the output and the output is not coming and the reviewers are yelling at you and all of this, then it becomes something against you and it prohibits you from advancing on other dimensions. So again, another thing is that the publication process is about your papers, not about yourself. So preserve yourself and always remember yourself. Why are you in this business? What makes you motivated? Why you like doing this profession is because of the student. Find what gives you joy and keep being focused on that, even in the times of rejection, bad weather, etc. And so enjoy the journey. And I think don't over strategize, especially when you are young. It may seem that, okay, now I approach that editor and I work and this is the most fashionable method tool and I'm gonna just make a paper. In the short run, maybe you have gains, but in the end of the day, you want to contribute to knowledge and you want to build your research identity and to contribute to knowledge and contribute to the world. So strategizing may fix a part of the journey, but still the big picture, like the earlier you start to think about the big picture, and the better and scholar you become. That's my impression is that when I see first or second year students in the PhD asking, okay, what advice do you give me for the job market? Should I send my paper here and there? I think, okay, you are first and second year. Think about big questions. What makes you, what are the challenges? What are the gaps? What skills do you need to address those questions in the best? Build those challenges, get to know the best people working on those problems, and then you think about the papers, submitting to journals and the job market. If you start with an output question without thinking about the input, it may work. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but does it build a scholar that can last 20 years, 30 years? And that's the question I have. I mean, everyone has their end of one. My story, and maybe what works for me, it's not the same that works for other people. And I've been very unique in the way I put together stuff. So again, it's very personal. I think be kind, not be nice. It's not that you always have to agree with everyone. Academia is about disagreement, okay? But treat people well, and it's a paid forward job. So whatever you do, kind to others, everyone, like colleagues, people that work in the university, in the end of the day will make your life much easier when you schedule your courses, when you access the setting, etc. Seems basic, but many people don't do this. Build your network and community earlier. So starting from summer school, small workshop, courses, organize symposia at EOM, be surrounded by people whose research you like, you think you can learn, and have this network where you can send. Some communities in academia are more structured than others, so already have these venues. If you have a very specific topic, you may not have an already made community, so you may have to create it. But if you build it young, then you carry it through your life. And I think also never stop learning. So this idea that you build the skills, method skills are important, understanding context is important, but thinking that you have to build it when you are a PhD and then you're done, it's not like... I heard this from Gino Cattani, who was editor of Org Science. He was saying that every year he takes one or two courses and he goes to a panel or a workshop in an area that he's not familiar with. And sometimes I go to these network courses and I see like very established professors like INSEAD or US taking the method course with a PhD student. And I find that refreshing, like this idea that we are all in this together. And of course you develop experience, you develop knowledge, but don't stop learning and not focus again too much on the selling or on the editorial process, but still maintain this learning mode throughout. That makes also it a lot enjoyable. Like if you still keep into being updated and what's new in the field also will keep you motivated while you go.